you remember not that long ago, at the end of September, Disney CEO Bob Iger said that the company was, we're gonna quiet the noise on the culture wars. We're gonna go ahead and take a step back, not really ruffle any more feathers and go into a legal warfare battle with the state governments. Okay, we're just gonna focus on putting out really good, high quality content. Okay, no more of these divisive issues. Okay, and after hearing all of that stuff, we also were pointing out a lot of people in the commentary sphere were just going, well, what do you mean? What do you mean the culture wars? What do you think is culture? What do you think is something that Disney will be taking a step back from, as opposed to just planting their flag firmly by saying that no, this is above the culture wars, this is necessary. But let's just refresh our memories here for a second. Walt Disney CEO Bob Iger told investors the company will quiet the noise in the culture war that has pitted social conservatives against global media and entertainment conglomerate. According to an analyst note on Wednesday, Iger's brief statement included an analyst report from Needham media analyst Laura Martin, was part of the investor presentation on Tuesday at Walt Disney World Resort in Florida, in which the CEO also announced Disney would double its investment in theme parks and cruise ships over the next decade. Disney is struggling to make its streaming business profitable, improve the quality of its films, position its flagship sports brand ESPN to stream directly to consumers. Well, at least they rectified. It's kind of interesting to go ahead and take a look at that backwards, okay, now that we have another investors call under our belt, knowing that the streaming business definitely isn't profitable, but it's supposed to be by the end of 2024. Best of luck, Bob. Improve the quality of its films. Well, the Deadpool 3, Deadpool and Wolverine might make some money, but quality? Position its flagship sports brand, ESPN partnering with, or having to partner with Warner Brothers and Fox in order to make this conglomerate sports streaming service, when Disney had the hubris to think that we have ESPN, we have the number one name in sports, we would never lower ourselves to partnering with those other lesser brands, but here we are, bruh. And potentially shed its television networks. Haven't really done anything like that, but I think Bob would later go on in the subsequent weeks to just drive home the point that nope, we ain't getting rid of anything. And then also with that other investors call, also noting that they are just not only doubling down on what they're spending on the parks, but also trying to acquire other stakes in more profitable businesses elsewhere, that ain't gonna happen. Entertainment company was thrust into the center of the nation's culture wars in 2022 when it publicly criticized Florida legislation restricting classroom discussion on sexual orientation and gender identity. Governor Ron DeSantis responded to the campaign against woke Disney and working with the state legislature to strip it of self-governing authority over the parks. Florida and Disney are locked in a legal battle over the formation of Central Florida Oversight District Board, and most of that ended up getting resolved. There's still a couple of persnickety details that's out there, but Disney has faced social media backlash from conservative commentators, for Halle Bailey's terrible performance as Ariel in live-action Little Mermaid. Iger's remarks about the content appears to mirror those that he made from the company's annual shareholders meeting in April of that year, but that was April 2023, and then also September of 2023. What was old Bobby Boy talking about in January of 2021 when he was simply just a concerned Disney shareholder from the outside looking in? A lot of people were wondering, what is going to fall under the purview of culture war issues for Disney? And yes, this is a couple of years old, but yes, this was also recorded with Bob at his most candid, and it kind of lets you in on the idea of what is a culture war issue and what is core to Disney in general. So here's Bob taking shots at other Bob and really making an ass out of themselves. Shout out to Christopher Rufo for putting this one out there on Front Street. And well, it's not great. Let's take a look at what old Bobbaroo has to say about this, shall we?
Well, I mean, Bob has talked about this eloquently since he's become CEO. I'll say a couple of things about it.
Yeah, I'll also say a couple of things about this. We kind of knew a couple of the things after he stole back his CEO position in the middle of the night on a Sunday while Bob Chapek, the then CEO, was fired on a Sunday evening. Chapek wasn't even allowed to assume the CEO's office because Iger was still occupying that double-sized office with an inbuilt shower. Tell me he wasn't trying to set up a fall guy because he had advanced knowledge of the coup and what was going to ultimately end up happening, and he also knew all of the duds that were on the horizon, but I think he came back a little bit early thinking that he could right the ship quicker than he ultimately could, because now he's become the face of failure once again. Not like he always hasn't been. Like, he set up all of these dominoes that are currently crashing right now and in the previous few years himself, so what could we expect anyways?
We've tended to shy away from politics. And in doing so, I think we've shied away from talking about issues that aren't political at all.
We shied away from politics at Disney. Shied away. Well, Bob Chapek was CEO. Okay, issues that are not political. Okay, shying away from politics, but issues that are not political. What are you going to go on to say here, Bob Iger?
Like the issues that we're talking about today. Because we believe in doing so, maybe it looks like we're taking a stand. Well, in that reality, we should be taking a stand. I take responsibility for this. I was CEO for 15 years.
Okay, I was the CEO for 15 years. We didn't do enough. Okay, Bob, well, let's get into this. What did you not do enough?
And so I managed the company's public-facing processes and how we were portraying ourselves. And I think that we have to be less cautious, as Bob, I think, was just alluding to, about such things and not be concerned. Like just commenting about what happened in Washington last week, that's not political on our part at all.
Last week in Washington, what happened in early 2021 that is so above politics that we as Disney need to comment on it? Oh, these are culture war issues, right?
We know that what we saw was fundamentally wrong, and that it was rooted in hatred and disrespect and contempt and intolerance. And we should feel free as a company to comment about that without retribution. And another thing I want to say that I've learned these last 9 to 12 months is,
it's interesting, yeah. Disney really needs to talk about this stuff, okay? We've shied away from politics before, but this is so much bigger than politics. We, basically a children's entertainment company, really need to denounce the events that happened at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, 2021. What? What are we doing, Bob?
I'm very proud of a lot of the work we've done in terms of diversity and inclusion on screen.
Representation and inclusivity, DEI policies, okay? Because all of this stuff became more popular to talk about in recent years doesn't mean that this hasn't been going on for a long time.
When we did Coco, for instance, at Pixar, a great example of that, or Tiana, or, of course, Black Panther is one of the great examples of that. I allowed those things to make me feel a bit complacent in a sense. It's not that I wanted to be that way, but I thought, wow, we did Black Panther. How great are we?
How do you say that, Bob? How do you say that? Wow, we made Black Panther. We're so great. Let me just go ahead and throw out my shoulder, patting myself on the back. We made Black Panther. We're really good white people. Well, Bob Iger should probably speak for himself on that one.
And it caused me to not focus as much as I should have on the culture of the company and the environment.
Right.
And in the voices that were telling those stories as opposed to just how they were being portrayed on the screen.
Voices telling those stories as opposed to just the faces on the screen. Oh, okay. So, not about the quality of the story on the screen. It's about who's telling the story on the screen. Fantastic. Bob, then chairman and future chairman, Iger told employees he was committing the company to taking a stand on politics because of January 6th, and praised himself for making Black Panther, which he said was an example of diversity and inclusion. Well, it's a black character and you're telling a black character story. I don't really know if that's so much diversity and inclusion as telling a comic story, but hey, if you want to take the opportunity to go ahead and immerse your politics, which is above the culture war. You can go ahead and do whatever you want there, Bob. Just how well is that working out for you? Oh, great. You're at a point in time where where your trust from your average family has completely and totally eroded and moved over across the street to Universal, where you're looking down the barrel of the gun at a 5th consecutive year of losing out to Illumination and Universal as being the highest grossing animation studio in Hollywood. Yeah, good job. But hey, you can go ahead and pat yourself on the back once again because you also decided to put the Marvels in theater. Hey, look at how great you are. It only cost you about $500 million. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.